The wounded stranger, the storm hit Kepler 442b with the fury of 1,000 angry gods. Marcus Chun pressed his face against the reinforced viewport of mining station Alpha 7, watching purple lightning tear across the alien sky. The wind howled, like something alive and hungry, rattling the station's metal walls with each powerful gust. Marcus had been alone on this remote world for 8 months now. The mining company had sent him here to extract rare minerals from the planet's crust, promising rotation every 6 months. That promise had been broken twice already. Supply ships came and went, but Marcus remained, forgotten in the vast emptiness of space. He didn't mind the solitude most days. The work kept him busy, and the silence gave him peace. Earth had been too crowded, too noisy, too full of people who didn't understand why he preferred machines to conversations. Here, surrounded by humming extractors and beeping sensors, he felt at home. But tonight it was different. Tonight, something was wrong. The proximity alarms had been screaming for the past hour, but Marcus couldn't see anything through the storm. His external sensors were useless in this weather, showing only static and interference. He checked them 3 times, running full diagnostics. Everything appeared normal, yet the feeling of being watched wouldn't leave him alone. Marcus moved away from the viewport and walked to his workstation. The mining station was small but efficient, designed for one person to operate indefinitely. Living quarters, workshop, communication center, and storage bay all fit within a space no larger than a modest apartment back on Earth. He'd made it comfortable over the months, adding personal touches that reminded him of home. The coffee maker gurgled as it finished brewing his evening cup. Marcus wrapped his fingers around the warm ceramic mug, letting the heat chase away the chill that seemed to follow him everywhere on this world. The storms were getting worse as winter approached, and the temperature outside had dropped to nearly 40 degrees below freezing. A new sound cut through the wind. Marcus froze, listening carefully. There it was again, a low, pained howl that definitely wasn't the storm. Something was out there, something alive and hurt. Marcus set down his coffee and moved to the equipment locker. He pulled out his environmental suit, a bulky but necessary piece of gear that would protect him from the planet's harsh atmosphere. The suit's internal systems hummed to life as he sealed the helmet, and his heads-up display showed green across all systems. The airlock cycled with a hiss, and Marcus stepped into the howling chaos of the storm. Ice crystals whipped around him like tiny knives, and the wind tried to knock him off his feet. His suit's headlamps cut through the darkness, creating a small bubble of visibility in the endless night. Following the sound, Marcus made his way around the station's perimeter. The howling came again, closer now, filled with pain and desperation. His boots crunched through the snow as he followed the sound to a cluster of rocks about 50 meters from the station. What he found there made him stop dead in his tracks, huddled. Against the largest boulder was a creature unlike anything in the mining company's files. It was humanoid but covered in thick, dark fur that was matted with blood and ice. The being was large, probably 7 feet tall if it could stand upright, with powerful limbs and clawed hands. Its head was Volf-like, but more intelligent, with amber eyes that tracked Marcus's movement with sharp awareness. Most striking were the wounds. Deep gashes ran along the creature's left side, and one arm hung at an unnatural angle. Blood had frozen in the fur, creating dark patches that told a story of violence and survival. The creature's lips pulled back, revealing sharp teeth, but it didn't growl or attack. Instead, it watched Marcus with an expression that seemed almost curious. Those amber eyes held intelligence, pain, and something that looked like hope. Marcus's training kicked in. First rule of xenobiology: assume intelligence until proven otherwise. He slowly raised his hands, palms open, in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The creature's ears twitched forward, and its breathing slowed slightly. Moving carefully, Marcus activated his suit's translation protocols. The computer began analyzing the creature's vocalizations, searching for patterns that might indicate language. Most alien species use some form of structured communication, and The mining company's computers contained thousands of linguistic patterns from across known space. The creature made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. Marcus's heart clenched. Whatever this being was, it was clearly suffering. He'd seen enough injured animals back on Earth to recognize the signs of severe trauma and exhaustion. Marcus pointed to himself and spoke slowly. Marcus? Then he pointed to the creature and tilted his head in question. The being's eyes widened slightly. It struggled to lift its good arm and tapped its chest with one clawed finger. When it spoke, the sound was rough and musical at once. Like wind through mountain caves. Kira, it said, the word barely audible over the storm. Marcus nodded and smiled, though he knew Kira probably couldn't see his expression through the helmet. He pointed back toward the station and made a gesture. He hoped conveyed invitation. Kira looked toward the warm lights of the mining station, then back at Marcus. After a long moment, she nodded. Getting Kira to the station proved to be a challenge. She was heavy, probably weighing close to 300 pounds, and her injuries made movement difficult. Marcus had to support most of her weight as they struggled. Through the snow, both of them fighting against the wind that seemed determined to knock them down by the time they reached the station's airlock. Both were exhausted. Marcus cycled the chamber carefully, watching Kira's reaction to the changing atmosphere. Many alien species couldn't tolerate human standard air pressure, but Kira seemed to handle it well enough. Inside the station's warmth, Marcus got his first clear look at his unexpected guest. Kira was definitely female, with a more graceful build than he'd initially thought. Her fur was a deep charcoal color, with silver markings around her eyes and hands. Even injured and exhausted, she moved with a predator's fluid grace. Marcus gestured for Kira to sit on his workbench while he gathered medical supplies. The mining station's medical kit was comprehensive, designed to handle everything from minor cuts to major trauma. He'd never expected to use it on an alien, but the basic principles of wound care were probably universal. Kira watched his preparations with those intelligent amber eyes. When Marcus approached with antiseptic and bandages, she didn't flinch or pull away. Instead, she seemed to understand that he was trying to help. The wounds were worse than they'd appeared outside. Deep claw marks ran along Kira's ribs, and her left arm was definitely broken. Marcus worked carefully, cleaning and bandaging the cuts while trying not to cause additional pain. Kira bore it all in stoic silence, only occasionally making soft sounds when he touched particularly sensitive areas. As Marcus worked. His translation program continued analyzing Kira's vocalizations. Gradually, patterns began to emerge. The computer identified structural elements that suggested a complex language with roots in pack-based social communication. Can you understand me? Marcus asked as he finished wrapping Kira's arm in a makeshift sling. Kira tilted her head, and her ears twitched. After a moment, she nodded slowly. The translation program chimed, indicating it had achieved basic comprehension protocols. Pain, Kira said, her voice rough but clearly understandable through the computer's interpretation. Much pain. Marcus nodded sympathetically. I know. The medicine will help soon. He showed her the pain medication he'd included in the treatment. This will make you feel better. Kira studied the small pills, then looked at Marcus. You help? Why? The question caught Marcus off guard. He'd acted on instinct, driven by basic human compassion, but he realized how strange his behavior must seem to someone who didn't know humans. Because you needed help, he said simply. That's what people do. Something shifted in Kira's expression. Her eyes grew soft, and she made a sound that the computer translated as gratitude mixed with surprise. Not all people, she said quietly. As the medication took effect and Kira's pain visibly lessened, Marcus prepared food for both of them. The station's synthesizer could produce a variety of meals, and he chose something simple that hopefully wouldn't upset an alien digestive system. They ate in comfortable silence, with Kira occasionally making appreciative sounds as she tasted the human food. Marcus found himself fascinated by her mannerisms. She ate carefully, almost delicately, despite her predatory appearance. Her table manners suggested a sophisticated culture with social rules and expectations. After the meal, Marcus showed Kira to the station's small recreation area. It wasn't much, just a comfortable chair and a small entertainment system, but it was warm and safe. Kira settled into the chair with visible relief, her body finally relaxing for the first time since he'd found her. "You live alone?" Kira asked, her improved translation making conversation easier. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I work here, mining minerals from the planet. What about you? Do you live nearby?" Kira's expression darkened, and her ears flattened against her head. "Pack," she said, the word heavy with loss. "Had pack, now got gone." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm outside. "Gone? What happened?" Kira was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Raiders came, killed them all. I escaped. Barely." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd heard stories about raiders. In this sector, ruthless bands of criminals who attacked isolated settlements and ships. But hearing about it from a survivor made it real in a way that reports never could. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, knowing how inadequate the words were. "That must have been terrible." Kira nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Vorthik need." "Pack. Without pack, we die. But I cannot die. Must survive. Must remember them." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He'd never lost anyone close to him, never experienced the kind of grief that Kira was carrying. But he recognized the determination in her voice, the iron will that had kept her alive when everything else was gone. As the night wore on, they talked more. Marcus learned that the Vorthak were a nomadic species, traveling in family groups across the galaxy. They were traders and explorers, generally peaceful but fierce when threatened. Kira's pack had been small, just 12 individuals including herself. But they'd been her entire world. The raiders had attacked without warning, using superior numbers and heavy weapons. Kira had been on patrol when the attack began, and by the time she fought her way back to camp, it was too late. She'd spent 3 days running through the wilderness, wounded and alone. Before the storm had driven her to seek shelter near Marcus's station, Marcus found himself deeply moved by her story. The idea of losing everyone you cared about, of being left completely alone in a universe, was almost too terrible to contemplate. Yet Kira had survived, had kept going despite having every reason to give up as the storm continued to rage outside. Marcus set up a sleeping area for Kira near the heating unit. He gave her his spare blankets and pillow, along with a change of clothes that might fit her tall frame. She accepted the gifts with quiet dignity, her amber eyes bright with gratitude. "Why? Do you help me?" Kira asked as Marcus prepared his own sleeping area nearby. "I am nothing to you, just stranger." Marcus considered the question seriously. "Maybe that's exactly why I help you," he said finally. "Because you're alone and nobody should have to face that kind of pain by themselves." Kira stared at him for a long moment, and Marcus saw something change in her expression. The wariness that had never quite left her eyes began to fade, replaced by something warmer and more trusting. "Marcus," she said softly, "you are a good person. Your pack should be proud." Marcus smiled, touched by the compliment. "I don't really have a pack. Most humans live in cities with millions of people, but we don't usually form close groups like the Vorthak do." "Then you understand," Kira said with surprising insight. "You know what it is to be alone." Marcus realized she was right. He'd chosen solitude, had even preferred it, but that didn't mean he didn't understand loneliness. In a way, he and Kira were both outsiders, both separated from the normal social structures of their species. As they settled down to sleep, Marcus found himself acutely aware of Kira's presence. She'd chosen to sleep closer to his area than strictly necessary, close enough that he could hear her breathing and the occasional soft sound she made in her sleep. It wasn't uncomfortable, exactly, but it was different from the complete solitude he'd grown accustomed to. The storm showed no signs of letting up. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse, with the wind howling like some ancient beast and the temperature dropping even further. Marcus was glad he'd brought Kira inside when he did. She never would have survived the night in the open. Just before he drifted off to sleep, Marcus heard Kira shift in her makeshift bed. When he looked over, he saw that she'd moved even closer, positioning herself where she could watch both the door and his sleeping area. Even injured and exhausted, she was protecting him. The realization filled Marcus with a warmth that had nothing to do with the station's heating system. For the first time in months, he wasn't truly alone. And for the first time since losing her pack, neither was Kira. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the planet, but inside the small mining station, two unlikely companions found something they'd both been missing: the comfort of another living being who understood what it meant to be alone in the vast darkness of space. Marcus fell asleep to the sound of Kira's steady breathing. And for the first time since arriving on Kepler 442b, he felt completely at peace. Bonds forged in fire. Marcus woke to the smell of cooking food and the soft sound of Kira moving around the station's small kitchen area. 3 days had passed since he'd found her in the storm, and her recovery had been remarkable. The Vorthak healing factor was apparently far superior to human physiology. "Good morning," Marcus said, stretching as he sat up from his sleeping mat. He'd given Kira the station's single bed after the first night, insisting that her injuries required better rest than his did. Kira looked up from where she was carefully tending something in the food synthesizer. Her arm was still in the sling Marcus had made, but she moved with increasing confidence. "Morning, Marcus," she replied, her English improving daily as the translation program adapted to her speech patterns. "I make food. Hope is good." Marcus smiled as he joined her. Over the past few days, they'd fallen into a comfortable routine. Kira had insisted on helping with daily tasks despite her injuries, and Marcus had discovered that she was not only intelligent but remarkably adaptable. She'd learned to operate several pieces of human technology just by watching him demonstrate them once. "You don't have to cook for me," Marcus said, accepting the plate she offered. "You're still recovering." Kira's ears flattened slightly. Sign Marcus had learned indicated mild frustration. "I am not weak," she said firmly. "Vorthak contribute to pack. You help me, I help you, is proper way." Marcus had learned not to argue with her about this. The concept of pack reciprocity was deeply ingrained in Kira's worldview, and she became genuinely distressed when she felt she wasn't contributing equally to their partnership. They ate breakfast while monitoring the morning sensor reports. The storm had finally passed, leaving the landscape covered in a pristine blanket of purple-tinted snow. Marcus's mining equipment had weathered the tempest well, and he was eager to get back to work. "I need to check the extraction sites today," Marcus explained as they finished eating. "Make sure the storm didn't damage anything important." "You should rest while I'm gone." Kira's amber eyes sharpened. "You go alone? It's not far," Marcus assured her. "Just a few kilometers to the main mining site. I'll be back before evening." Kira stood and moved to the viewport, scanning the horizon with the intensity of a trained warrior. "Not safe," she said after a moment. "I feel something wrong." Danger comes. Marcus had learned to take Kira's instincts seriously. The Vorthak had evolved as pack hunters on a world filled with predators, and their senses were far more acute than human abilities. If Kira sensed danger, there probably was danger. What kind of danger? Marcus asked, joining her at the viewport. Kira's nostrils flared as she tested the air, even though they were inside the sealed station. Same smell. As before, when Pac died. Raiders. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. Here? How could they have found us? "Storm ends, they search again," Kira said grimly. "They know I escape, want to finish what they start." Marcus moved to the sensor console and began running deep scans of the surrounding area. At first, everything appeared normal, but as he refined the search parameters, he began to pick up anomalous readings. There were metallic objects moving at the edge of his sensor range, approaching the station in what looked like a coordinated pattern. "How many?" Kira asked, reading his expression. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, gathering as much data as possible. At least 6 ships, maybe more. They're still about an hour out, but they're definitely heading this way. Kira moved with sudden urgency, despite her injured arm. We must prepare. These raiders, they are skilled hunters, will not be easy to stop. Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. The mining station had basic security systems, but it was designed to keep out wildlife and environmental hazards, not armed raiders. He wasn't a soldier, just an engineer who'd never been in a real fight in his life. Maybe we should run, Marcus. Take my rover and head for the emergency shelter in Sector 7. Kira's expression hardened. No running. They follow, and next time we have no shelter, no weapons, no advantage. We fight here or we die running. The certainty in her voice steadied Marcus's nerves. Kira had survived the destruction of her pack, had made it through days of pursuit by these same raiders. If she thought they could win, maybe they actually could. What do we do? Marcus asked. Kira began moving through the station, cataloging their resources with the eye of an experienced warrior. What weapons you have? Marcus showed her the station's modest armory. There was a standard mining laser, powerful enough to cut through rock but never intended for combat. A few emergency flares that might serve as improvised explosives. Some industrial tools that could potentially be weaponized. Not much, Kira observed. But Vorthik learned to fight with anything. You know station systems? Marcus nodded. Every circuit, every program. I designed half the modifications myself. Good, then we use what we have. Kira's tactical mind was clearly working. Station has power, yes. And mining equipment? Enough power to run a small city, Marcus confirmed. And the mining lasers can cut through just about anything? A predatory smile crossed Kira's face, and Marcus caught a glimpse of why raiders might fear the Vorthik. Then we make this place very unwelcome for visitors. Over the next hour, they worked frantically to prepare their defenses. Marcus rerouted power from non-essential systems to boost the mining laser's output, while Kira used her knowledge of raider tactics to predict their most likely approach routes. The station's fabrication unit worked overtime, producing improvised weapons and defensive systems. Marcus created explosive charges using mining equipment and industrial chemicals, while Kira crafted traps that would channel attackers into predetermined kill zones. They come now, Kira announced, her enhanced hearing picking up sounds Marcus couldn't detect. Ground vehicles. Fast approach from the north. Marcus activated the station's external cameras and felt his heart sink. 8 heavily armed vehicles were racing across the snow toward them, kicking up clouds of ice crystals. Each one carried multiple raiders, and he could see weapon mounts on every vehicle. There are too many of them, Marcus said, his voice tight. With fear, Kira placed her good hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle despite her clawed fingers. Numbers not everything, she said firmly. They expect easy prey. We show them what mistake they make. The raiders reached the stations. Perimeter faster than Marcus had hoped. They spread out in a practiced formation, surrounding the facility while staying just outside the range of the mining lasers. Marcus watched on the monitors as figures in combat armor dismounted from their vehicles. Their leader was a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard. Even through the cameras, Marcus could see the scars that covered its hide and the cruel intelligence in its small eyes. When it spoke, the translation system identified the language as trade pidgin, the common tongue used by criminals throughout this sector. Little Vorthok, the raider leader called out, its voice carrying easily across the snow. We know you're in there. Come out now, and we'll make your death quick. Keep hiding, and we'll take our time. Kira's lips pulled back in a snarl. Greketh, she spat. Pack killer, slaver. She moved to the communication panel and activated the external speakers. I am Kira of the Windrunner Pack. You murdered my family. Today, you pay. Greketh's laughter was like breaking glass. One wounded Vorthik and whatever pet she's found. This will be amusing. Marcus felt anger burn away his fear. These creatures had destroyed Kira's family, had hunted her across the galaxy for sport. Now they thought they could simply walk in and finish what they'd started. "Let's show them how wrong they are," Marcus said, his hands steady on the weapon controls. The attack began without warning. The raiders charged the station from multiple directions, their weapons blazing. But Marcus and Kira were ready. The mining lasers had been repositioned and recalibrated, turning them into devastating anti-personnel weapons. Marcus's precise engineering skills, combined with Kira's tactical knowledge, created a deadly crossfire that caught the raiders completely off guard. The first wave of attackers was cut down before they could reach the station's walls. The industrial lasers, designed to slice through solid rock, made short work of personal armor and shields, but the raiders were experienced fighters. They adapted quickly, using smoke grenades and electronic countermeasures to obscure Marcus's targeting systems. Within minutes, several of them had reached the station's outer defenses. That's when Kira's improvised traps came into play. Pressure sensitive. Explosives detonated under the raiders' feet, while concealed wires triggered improvised flamethrowers that turned sections of the perimeter into blazing infernos. "They're trying to breach the airlock," Marcus reported, watching his monitors as a team of raiders worked on the station's main entrance with cutting tools. "Let them come," Kira said grimly. She'd positioned herself near the inner airlock with a modified mining laser in her good hand. Despite her injured arm, she moved with fluid grace, every motion economical and purposeful. The raiders succeeded in breaching the outer door, but found themselves trapped in the airlock chamber as Marcus triggered the emergency containment protocols. The small space became a kill box as Kira opened fire through the reinforced viewport, but more raiders were approaching from other directions. They'd learned from their initial losses and were now moving with professional caution, using cover and coordinated tactics to advance on the station. Marcus felt sweat beading on his forehead as he tried to track multiple targets simultaneously. He wasn't trained for this kind of combat, and the raiders' experience was beginning to show. That's when Kira made a decision that changed everything. "Marcus," she said, moving toward the station's maintenance hatch. "Keep them busy. I go outside." "Outside?" Marcus stared at her in horror. "Kira, you're injured." "There's still 6 of them out there?" Kira's amber eyes burned with cold fire. "These raiders killed my pack. Hunted me like an animal. Now they threaten you, who showed me kindness when all else was lost." She hefted her weapon with practiced ease. Time to remind them why Vorthik are feared warriors? Before Marcus could protest, Kira had cycled through the maintenance airlock. Marcus watched on the external cameras as she emerged from the station's underside, moving with the deadly grace of a predator despite her injuries. The raiders never saw her coming. Kira moved through them like death itself, using every piece of cover, every shadow, every advantage the terrain offered. Her injured arm slowed her down, but her fury made up for any physical limitations. The first raider died without ever knowing she was there. The second managed to turn and raise his weapon before Kira's claws opened his throat. The third and fourth tried to work together, but Kira used their own tactics against them, splitting their attention until she could take them down one at a time. Marcus watched in awe and terror as his gentle companion transformed into something out of nightmares. This was what the Vorthok had been before they became traders and explorers. This was the apex predator that had dominated their homeworld. For millions of years, Grakoth himself finally entered the fight, roaring challenges as he charged Kira with a massive energy weapon. But the raider leader had made a crucial mistake. He'd assumed that one injured Vorthek would be easy prey. Even for him, the battle between Kira and Grakoth was brutal and swift. The raider leader was larger and stronger, but Kira was faster and infinitely more motivated. She used his size against him, staying mobile while her claws found every gap in his armor. When it was over, Grakoth lay still in the purple snow, and Kira stood over him, breathing heavily. Her injuries had reopened during the fight, and Marcus could see fresh blood staining her fur. Marcus ran outside, his environmental suit protecting him from the planet's atmosphere. He found Kira kneeling beside the bodies of the fallen raiders, her head bowed in what looked like prayer or meditation. Kira, Marcus said softly, approaching her carefully. Are you hurt? She looked up at him, and Marcus saw tears in her amber eyes. It's finished, she said. Pack is avenged. Marcus helped her back to the station, where he treated her reopened wounds and gave her medication for the pain. As the adrenaline faded, exhaustion set in for both of them. You didn't have to do that, Marcus said as he finished bandaging her side. We could have found another way. Kira shook her head. It was only way. These raiders, they never stop hunting. Only death stops them. She looked at Marcus with an expression he couldn't quite read. You try to save me even when dangerous. Why? Marcus considered the question. Because you're my friend. Because you didn't deserve what happened to you. Because ... Because everyone deserves someone who will stand with them when things get bad. Kira was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but determined. My pack is gone. Cannot bring them back, but perhaps can find new pack. Marcus felt his heart skip. What do you mean? You live alone? Yes. Have no family here, no close friends. And Marcus nodded. Kira continued. I have no pack? You have no pack. Maybe we make pack together. Small pack, just 2, but better than alone. The offer touched something deep in Marcus's chest. He'd spent so long convincing himself that he preferred solitude, but the past few days with Kira had shown him what he'd been missing. The companionship, the shared purpose, the simple comfort of not being completely alone in the universe. I'd like that, Marcus said simply. Kira's face lit up with a smile that transformed her entire appearance. Then is decided. We are a pack. Now, I protect you, you protect me. We face dangers together. As night fell on Kep 442b, Marcus and Kira sat together in the warm station, sharing a meal and planning their future. The mining company would probably want a full report on the raider attack, and there would be questions about Kira's presence on the station, but those were problems for tomorrow. Tonight, they were content to sit close together, finding comfort in each other's presence. Marcus had found a friend in the most unlikely circumstances, and Kira had found something she'd thought lost forever, a family. Outside, the alien stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. But inside the small mining station, 2 beings from different worlds had forged a bond that would last a lifetime. They'd faced death together and emerged stronger. Their friendship, tempered in fire and sealed with mutual sacrifice. As they prepared for sleep, Kira moved her bedding closer to Marcus's sleeping area, just as she had every night since he'd found her. But tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't moving close out of caution or gratitude. Tonight, she was moving close because she was home. Marcus smiled as he settled down to sleep, listening to the familiar sound of Kira's breathing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new opportunities to explore the galaxy together. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged, side by side, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them, secure in the knowledge that they were no longer alone. The pack of 2 slept peacefully under alien stars, their bond unbreakable, their future bright with possibility.